Jennifer Dulos went missing from her Connecticut home in May 2019. Her vehicle was missing as well, but no one believed that the loving mother of 5 would disappear willingly, vanishing without a trace. No one, that is, but her estranged husband. Was Jennifer enacting her own version of the novel Gone Girl, staging her disappearance to frame him? Or do the signs of foul play point clearly towards the guilty parties? Jennifer Farber and Fotis Dulos met during their shared time at Brown University in the late 1980s. Fotis graduated first in 1989 and went on to earn an MBA in finance at Columbia Business School. Jennifer graduated a year later in 1990 and later earned a master's degree in writing from New York University Tisch School of the Arts. It was years before the two reconnected, marrying only a month after Fotis's divorce to his first wife in the summer of 2004. In that same year, Fotis founded 4 Group Incorporated, a real estate development company that specialized in luxury homes in Connecticut. Jennifer worked as a writer online for Patch.com while also balancing her role as a stay-at-home mother to her 5 children, all aged between 8 to 13, including 2 sets of twins. Jennifer also maintained a blog where she wrote of the trials of motherhood and work, all of the ups and the downs. The title of her blog was a tribute to her family, 5makes7.com. Unfortunately, by the spring of 2018, the Dulos 7 had fractured. Jennifer had filed for divorce roughly a year prior and relocated from Farmington to a house in New Canaan, close to the children's school, and she took them with her. On Friday the 24th of May 2019, Jennifer had several appointments scheduled in New York. That morning, she left the house in New Canaan at 7:58 a.m. to drop off the kids at school just down the road. A neighbor's surveillance camera captured her vehicle, a 2017 Chevrolet Suburban, returning towards the house just 7 minutes later. The vehicle was captured one more time that morning, at 10:25 a.m., leaving the property. It's unclear if Jennifer was the driver of the vehicle when it left the house the second time that morning, but Jennifer Dulos has not been seen since. Lauren Almeida, the Dulos family friend and babysitter, arrived at Jennifer's New Canaan home at 11:30 a.m. She entered through the garage and noted that one of Jennifer's vehicles was missing. This was not odd, of course. She knew that Jennifer had multiple doctor's appointments booked for that day. But when Laura entered the house, there were indications that something was not right. Jennifer's handbag was on the floor, a mug for tea left out on the counter, and a half-eaten granola bar. Checking the pantry to replace the roll of kitchen towel, Lauren made an odd and unsettling discovery. The night before, she had placed a package of 12 full new rolls of paper towels in the pantry. But the next morning, she found only 2 remaining. What could possibly have transpired over that short period of time that required the use of 10 full towel rolls? Lauren texted Jennifer around noon, no response. Then again at around 1 p.m., still no response. Her phone call to Jennifer's cell phone at 4 p.m. went straight to voicemail. The babysitter had by that time collected all 5 children, but repeated attempts to reach their mother failed. Something was very wrong. By 7 p.m. that evening, police were called out to the property. Jennifer had not made it into her appointments, and no one had heard from her. When law enforcement arrived on scene, they walked through the property to see if anything appeared amiss. These responding officers rapidly noted markings that appeared blood-like in the garage. The center bay of the 3-car garage contained one vehicle, a Range Rover. On either side of this vehicle, the spots were empty. The Suburban had not returned to the house. Processing the scene, they found multiple areas which presumptively tested positive for blood. They found suspected blood on the Range Rover. There were spatter stains on the Rover's side and on the floor to the left of the vehicle. Detectives also noted that the area appeared to have been altered in an attempt to clean it. The New Canaan home was now a crime scene, and further resources were being drawn to process the evidence and search the surrounding area. Jennifer's Suburban was located on a road to the southwest of Waveney Park, only 3 miles away from Jennifer's home. Its running lights were on, and its transmission was left in reverse. There was a bloodstain on the passenger side of the vehicle. There were no other signs of Jennifer. There was, however, indications that someone else had been nearby. Located less than 100 feet from where the Suburban had been found, investigators locate a camera which shows video of a red pickup truck. Two years earlier, on the 19th of June 2017, Fotis contacted 911, concerned that he could not reach his wife.
Location of your emergency.
I'm worried about my wife and kids because they left to go to New York, and I haven't been able to get in touch with them. I've been texting, and I see that the texts are being delivered, but nobody's responding to me.
At the time of this call, Jennifer was not truly missing. She had taken her children and left Fotis, filing for an emergency injunction the following day to retain custody of the children, as well as divorce papers. In these papers, Jennifer foreshadowed what could have been her fate. I know that filing for divorce will enrage him. I know he will retaliate by trying to harm me in some way. He had the attitude that he must always win at all costs. I am afraid of my husband. Jennifer knew that her husband had been having an affair. Fotis had not taken significant steps to conceal his actions. In fact, he had even wanted his girlfriend, Michelle Troconis, along with her then 10-year-old daughter, to move into the family home. Refusing to agree to any such arrangement, Jennifer became further frightened when she discovered that Fotis had recently purchased a gun. These were the final blows to the marriage for Jennifer. She gathered the children and left. The contentious divorce proceedings, conducted through seemingly endless motions from lawyers on each side, continued over the next 2 years, as did the fight for custody over the children, one that Fotis was repeatedly losing to Jennifer. That is, until the morning of May 24th, 2019, when Jennifer disappeared. Investigators at Jennifer's New Canaan property identified blood-like stains hastily and ineffectively cleaned throughout the garage as well as the remaining vehicle. Testing from the Range Rover hood, bumper, and rear fender all returned a DNA match to Jennifer. Likewise, the stains found on the garage door, east garage wall, and doorknob leading to the mudroom returned matches to Jennifer as well. On one sample from the scene, there were 2 DNA matches acquired. Swabs from the kitchen sink faucet returned a mixture of DNA from both Jennifer and that of her estranged husband, Fotis Dulos. Around 3 p.m. the next day, Fotis arrived at the New Canaan Police Department and met with detectives leading his wife's missing persons case. Fotis arrived with his attorney. Detectives seized his cell phone, and then Fotis and his attorney promptly left the station. Fotis would not be answering any questions. The forensic examination of Fotis Dulos' cell phone revealed that his handset was in the area of Albany Avenue in Hartford around 7 p.m. on the evening of Jennifer's disappearance. Curious as to these movements, a video canvass was conducted of the area. What detectives discovered was potentially an attempted cover-up for murder. The cameras in Hartford allowed detectives to track a 2014 Ford Raptor, one registered to 4 Group, traveling in the area from roughly 7:30 p.m. through to 7:50 p.m. on the 24th of May. The driver, a man shown wearing a light-colored shirt, dark pants, and a ball cap, was accompanied by a female passenger. The driver was captured depositing multiple black-colored plastic garbage bags into several trash receptacles along the route over this 20-minute period. There are 3 separate stops along the mapped route captured on camera in which bags were disposed of. Footage capturing the rear of the vehicle likewise shows several plastic bags in the back of the pickup truck, slowly depleting throughout the journey. At one point, the driver even stuffed a box of items through a storm drain in an attempt to dispose of it. Detectives promptly checked the trash receptacles shown in the surveillance footage and retrieved bags matching those in the video. In some instances, they had already been collected, leading to a multi-day exhaustive search through trash compiled at a local processing hub. In the acquired bags, they found items of clothing cut to shreds, as well as undergarments with blood-like stains. A shirt that Jennifer was thought to have been wearing on the day she was last seen was stained with blood. Plastic zip ties inside the bags also showed what could be blood, alongside other standard household trash items. Inside the box pushed through the storm drain, investigators found a Connecticut license plate canceled, though previously registered to a Chevrolet Suburban, owned by none other than Fotis Dulos. Two of the characters on this license plate had been visually altered with tape, to appear from a distance to be a different plate number. DNA testing was performed on the clothing and other items from the trash receptacles. The results for Fotis Dulos were damning. By way of explanation, he claimed to have discovered the items left outside his home, and rather than turn them over to law enforcement, he disposed of them in a panic.
Statistically, when something like this happens, 90 or 95% is the spouse.
Say yes, 90% of the time it is the spouse.
But it's 90%, it's not 100%.
So when
I'm in the 5 or 10% category.
When Fotis went on his dump trip around Hartford, he was not alone. Cameras captured the image of a woman in the passenger seat of his pickup truck. Michelle Troconis did not deny being the passenger in the truck that day. Just over a week after Jennifer was reported missing, arrests were made, but not for murder.
Do you know where Jennifer is? Is there anything you would like to say to your children?
Where is she? Where is she?
Fotis was brought in under charges of tampering with evidence, but the case against him for the killing of his wife was still forming. Indeed, it was made more difficult by the heartbreaking fact that Jennifer herself had not been located.
Michelle, where's Jennifer?
Michelle, as an alleged accomplice, was likewise arrested for evidence tampering and brought in for questioning. Despite what police would later recount, there was video from her questioning that suggested she was being cooperative. However, she also appeared to know more than she had been letting on, and may just hold the key to the crime, or knowledge of where to find Jennifer.
We think you have information.
I'm going out, John, but I can walk the whole world with you if you want. I can take you to like the motor place. I can walk. I can spend a month with you guys. I can do whatever you want, but I didn't do it.
I have no idea what happened to Jennifer. I have no idea where Jennifer is.
While Michelle maintained her innocence of any crime and ignorance of Jennifer's presumed murder, investigators searching Fotis's Farmington property uncovered something curious. Handwritten notes by both Fotis and Michelle found inside the house seemed to detail their whereabouts on the day that Jennifer went missing. These detailed and thorough notes aligned seamlessly to the narrative Michelle had provided the police at her interview. Investigators subsequently dubbed these papers the alibi scripts, leaving no ambiguity as to what they interpreted was their purpose.
Do you know more, yes or no? And if you do, give us that answer and then start telling us. If not, I think we're all set.
Okay.
From the beginning, when he started to think about this, everything.
No, that I don't know.
Do you know more, yes or no?
No.
The alibi scripts outlined the activities of Fotis Dulos and Michelle Troconis in hourly intervals throughout the day in question when Jennifer disappeared, as well as the day following. An original copy of these notes were found in the trash of the Farmington residence. Photocopies were located in Fotis's briefcase, and a nearly verbatim version was then recorded by police during Michelle Troconis's interview. But then, as time went on and the interviews continued, Michelle's story began to change. As investigators pieced together where Fotis and Michelle really were that day, Michelle was faced with contradictions, and the information she omitted. For example, she was confronted with the evidence of her presence during the dump trip throughout Hartford, which had been left out of both her and Fotis's scripts. There's a reasonable explanation for the existence of the alibi scripts. According to Michelle, Fotis spoke with his family attorney in the days immediately following Jennifer's disappearance. He was instructed to record a detailed timeline of his actions from the last time that he saw his wife. Counsel advised him to record all details at that time that he could remember. Whether he entered the house when dropping off the children, which rooms did he enter, what items might he have touched. This may have explained why Fotis produced otherwise suspicious documents, but it does not explain Michelle's changing story, one which continued to vary from one account to the next over 2 more voluntarily offered interviews with investigators. Nor does it account for why activities in the alibi scripts attributed to Michelle never happened. They were part recollection and part fabrication. Michelle did have a verifiable alibi for the morning Jennifer disappeared. She visited 2 friends at 2 different addresses, as well as photographed herself outside of a Stop and Shop. The reason for taking this photograph is unclear, but it is timestamped and verifiable. There was one fact central to the case that Michelle could not keep straight. Where had Fotis been on the morning of May 24th? At first, she could recall seeing him, then she couldn't. She saw him at home, then in the next interview, it was at the 4-group office. Then, finally, after repeated questioning by police, Michelle admitted to seeing Fotis' cell phone that morning, but not Fotis himself. Michelle eventually admitted Fotis was obviously not in the house that morning. He did return in the afternoon. Michelle told police that she spent that afternoon cleaning the Farmington house in preparation for a meeting that Fotis claimed to have with a client the next morning. She said she was largely unaware and uninterested in what Fotis was up to elsewhere on the property during that time. At one point, Fotis asked her for some paper towels to help clean up a stain he had made inside a friend's truck. This was a 2001 Toyota Tacoma red pickup truck, a truck he had borrowed that day from a friend and employee from 4-group, a man named Powell Gummany. This truck was of particular interest to investigators since it matched exactly the vehicle captured on camera parked only feet from Jennifer's abandoned Suburban. Michelle assisted in the cleaning of Powell's vehicle later that day by handing her boyfriend some paper towels. When he handed it back, the towel was dirtied with a dark stain, a stain that Michelle could not verify had actually been coffee. The implication, according to police, was that Michelle was assisting in the cleanup of a vehicle used in the crime. The stain wasn't coffee, they said. Luminol testing of the truck returned indications of blood.
And then he walked and he grabbed me, he gave me a piece of paper over the toilet, the paper towel, and I put it inside where I had the bag of cleaning, what I was cleaning, the house.
Okay, did you see spilled coffee?
No, I didn't see that.
Did you see a coffee cup?
No, because I didn't look inside the car.
Did the paper towel smell like coffee?
No, I didn't smell
well,
it.
But still, you're holding that coffee stinks.
But I hold the paper towel, but I didn't smell it. I didn't see the.
But even still, you didn't smell coffee.
No.
You know how coffee is when you smell it, it stinks.
Yeah.
Smell it.
Yeah.
This is Pavel's truck. Did you ever hear of something called luminol? Luminol is something we use to look at evidence, to see if blood was somewhere. When it hits the blood, it illuminates. What's all that?
That's blood.
And where do you think that belongs to? Who do you think that belongs to?
Jennifer.
If you know stuff that you're not telling us,
No, I don't
that's
know.
the man you're protecting, because that's
I'm
sick
not protecting him. I'm not protecting him.
Okay.
I said, and I really don't want to see him ever again in my life.
9 a.m. the next morning, Fotis and Michelle took the same truck to Russell Speeder's car wash, where Fotis paid $250 in cash to have the vehicle detailed. Fotis was photographed withdrawing the money for this service. Michelle was presumed to be with him. Upon returning the truck back to Powell, Fotis insisted that new seats be installed to replace the old ones, and this was done. Investigators acquired the truck, as well as the removed seats that had been inside the vehicle on May 24th. Jennifer Dulos' blood was found on the passenger side seat of those Fotis had wanted to remove.
We categorically deny that Mr. Dulos had any involvement in the disappearance of his wife Jennifer, and we defy the state to prove that she is in fact dead.
Jennifer wrote an unpublished novel that, according to Fotis's lawyer Norm Pattis, had a similar plot to Lynn's 2012 novel, Gone Girl, which tells the story of a woman who fakes her own disappearance in order to frame her husband. The attorney pointed to that book's plot, claiming that Jennifer Dulos might have staged her own disappearance.
Lynn is slamming Fotis Dulos' attorney, Norm Pattis, for using the plot of her 2012 novel as a defense theory. In the book, a woman stages her death and frames her husband. Pattis shot back, writing, "Here's a message to Gillian. Be gone, girl. There's serious work to be done here. This isn't fiction, it's reality."
It seems that Fotis had been pushing this theory for months. His belief was demonstrated only the month prior when he wished his children and Jennifer a Merry Christmas, despite her being presumed dead for nearly 6 months.
All I want to say is that I wish Jennifer and her family happy holidays, and I just pray that they give my kids my love and my best wishes.
Fotis Dulos may not have been at his office between 8 a.m. and 10 a.m. when Jennifer went missing, but there was someone else there. Kent Mawhinney, a practicing attorney and close friend of Fotis Dulos. Kent was present at the Four Group office that morning and encountered Michelle Troconis, though both eventually admitted that neither set eyes on Fotis during that time. Fotis' cell phone showed 2 calls to Kent later that day, placed during his dump trip with Michelle, though Kent denies ever speaking with him during that time. Police believed that Kent knew far more than he was letting on, however. His name appeared multiple times in the alibi scripts. In addition, Kent was going through a contentious divorce of his own. And in an odd twist, in the days just before Jennifer went missing, Kent's estranged wife began to receive quite a bit of attention from Fotis Dulos.
Hi, this is Fotis Dulos from Four Group. I just wanted to reach out to you when you get a chance. My number is... Thank you so much. It's Fotis Dulos. Hope you're doing well. It's Sunday morning, mid-morning, and I'm just trying to touch base with you to see what the plan is so I can plan my afternoon, evening accordingly. Okay, call me back. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
The soon-to-be former Miss Mawhinney, whose full identity has been kept largely secret for her own privacy, told investigators how strange it was for Fotis, who was no more than an acquaintance to her, to be reaching out in this way. She had agreed to meet with him once, on the 16th of May, at a restaurant. During the meeting, Fotis attempted to make a case to her that she and her estranged husband should reconcile, a bizarre proposal being presented by a near stranger. But more unsettling, at multiple points during their meeting, Fotis tried to convince her to come with him to his home, invitations she repeatedly declined. Following the meeting, as details emerged of Jennifer's disappearance and Kent's involvement with the alibi scripts, his estranged wife became convinced that Fotis had been attempting to use her as an alibi.
It looks like Fotis was actually trying to set up an alibi by meeting with Kent's wife.
She also believed that had she gone with him to his Farmington home as he had requested, her husband would have been lying in wait for her there to harm her.
This is not a relative. This is not the type of person who you would expect would, reach out and try to mend a marriage.
Zelotes questioning in an interview with Fox 61 last week whether his client avoided a fate similar to Jennifer Dulos.
The murder investigation continued over the following months.
Do any comment? Comment. How are you holding up?
Excuse us.
How are you holding up?
Excuse us. No comment. Excuse us.
Mr. Dulos, where's the body?
The public and Fotis Dulos himself anticipated murder charges were pending, but in the meantime, he remained free on bond while additional charges of evidence tampering were filed against him.
Mr. Dulos, in this particular instance here with this particular charge, what do you have to say for yourself?
It's an exhausting fight. I love my children. That's about it.
Where's your wife? Where's Jennifer?
We wish we knew, and it was very, I don't know if you got a chance to see us talking to the state police. I have a very friendly relationship with them. I wish them well. And I wish you'd ask yourself why you have the nerve and the audacity to ask him that question. Because if you know something the police don't know, you should go tell them. We don't know where Jennifer is.
Very interested in him.
What?
Police seem very interested.
They do, but where's the murder charge? And where's your objectivity? Shame on you.
Can you give us Mr. Dulos on that videotape? Behalf, Mr. Dulos?
There was more legal trouble of a different kind, also surfacing for Fotis. Gloria Farber, Jennifer's mother, filed a lawsuit asserting that Fotis accepted $2.5 million in loans from her and her late husband, and he had not paid her back.
By 2010, the relationship did not have any promissory notes. There was no obligation to pay any of the funds that were...
You expect Gloria Farber, the mother of Jennifer Farber, to be giving you gifts, $14,000 a year, even after Jennifer is missing and you've been accused of criminal conduct in connection with her missing?
I don't expect anything. I know what the agreement was.
While the civil lawsuit was ongoing, the state finally, after just over 7 months, filed murder charges against Fotis Dulos and conspiracy charges against both Michelle Troconis and Kent Mawhinney.
On January 7th, 2020, Western District, in conjunction with Central District Major Crime Detectives, were able to get enough evidence to effect the arrests of 3 following individuals. Fotis Dulos, who is charged with...
Very encouraged by our preliminary review of the warrants. Very little was disclosed today that is new. And what was exposed was a shocking lack of confidence by the state in its case. Charging both murder and felony murder sounding in kidnapping suggests that the state's not sure what theory it's pursuing. Additionally, early in the case, much was made in the warrants of difficulties Mr. Dulos was having concluding the divorce with his ex-wife. That is surprisingly absent from the most recent warrant. Instead, the motive seems to be changed now to that of a financial crime, with the theory that Mr. Dulos might potentially be in a position to serve as executor or trustee of a fund maintained for the benefit of his children.
The state did posit a theory, though having never located Jennifer, there remained gaps in the narrative. The theory was that Jennifer was bludgeoned or stabbed in her garage shortly after returning from her school drop-off just after 8 a.m. Surveillance cameras in the neighborhood tracked the red Toyota pickup truck borrowed by Fotis that day into the area where it was then parked on a dirt turnoff in Waveney Park, roughly 100 feet from where Jennifer's Suburban was later found. A cyclist in dark clothing with a hood pulled over their face was recorded along the route between the dirt turnoff on Lapham Road in Waveney Park, traveling towards Jennifer's home. The bicycle ridden by the suspicious person was unique in its features. It had ram horn handlebars, consistent with a vintage 10-speed bicycle, and metallic reflective rims. This matched the description of Fotis' own childhood bicycle, which he had shipped to him from Greece some years before. It was stored inside his garage, but the bicycle was notably absent from its regular location in the days after the murder. Police also stated that the rim of a bicycle was visible in the back of the red Toyota pickup truck, captured on cameras later that day. Once in the garage, Jennifer sustained what were assumed to be fatal injuries, though perhaps not immediately. She was restrained using plastic zip ties and put into her 2017 Chevrolet Suburban. The state believes that the camera capturing the Suburban leaving the property at 10:25 a.m. was driven by Fotis Dulos.
The state believes he engineered and caused his wife's death. We don't. We're anxious for the trial. Or believe the allegations in the warrant. If that's all the state has, we're confident about trial. And Mr. Dulos has no interest in flight. He has every interest in fighting this case and reclaiming his reputation.
Following his arrest for murder in January 2020, Fotis was due for an emergency bond hearing. He had been released on house arrest, but now faced the possibility of having that freedom revoked. He spoke with his attorney that morning, but Then he failed to arrive for his scheduled court appearance. Police traveled out to his home to locate him. There, a view through to his garage showed Fotis in his Suburban. Fotis was unconscious from carbon monoxide poisoning and rushed to the hospital.
They could see through a window that Mr. Dulos was sitting in his vehicle, and he had obvious signs of medical distress. Officers forced entry and immediately began to perform life-saving measures. Medics responded from the East Farmington Fire Department, Yukon Health, and AMR ambulance to assist with those life-saving measures. Mr. Dulos was transported to Yukon Health by ambulance, where he is now listed as critical condition. Right now, the investigation is just beginning, and we expect to have an update later this evening.
Was there a note at all that might have indicated that this was a suicide attempt?
Yes, it's way too early for us to confirm any of that right now.
Fotis did leave a note that proclaimed his innocence, and that of his accused co-conspirators. It would be his last communication. He was airlifted to hospital in New York and placed in critical care. 2 days later, Fotis Dulos was pronounced dead. In his suicide note, Fotis wrote, "I want it to be known that Michelle Troconis had nothing to do with Jennifer's disappearance." Fotis' attorney believes he took his own life because he was overwhelmed by the weight of the murder accusation, but not, as many might deduce, the weight of his guilt.
Fotis Dulos was declared dead tonight at 5:32. The family is adamant that his name be cleared. As we are speaking, we have filed an unusual motion in the Connecticut courts asking to substitute an estate for Fotis Dulos for him as a defendant, to force the state to show its hand in a trial filled with evidence we think that amounts to no more than innuendo and unsupported suspicion. Contend that Mr. Dulos' death reflects a consciousness of guilt. We say no. We say it was more a conscience overborne with the weight of a world that was too busy to listen and that wanted a story more than it wanted the truth.
Prosecutors declined to continue with the trial against Fotis Dulos after his death, despite his attorney's efforts to proceed in his defense. But the conspiracy to commit murder cases against Michelle Troconis and Kent Mawhinney continued. Michelle's attorneys have argued that her lack of English language fluency can explain much of what police investigators claimed were suspiciously changing narratives. Her responses varied because her comprehension did. In pre-trial, Michelle was granted a translator to follow the proceedings.
Which is a change from the other time she's been here.
I believe, I'll just say this, Your Honor, although there may be some hint of cynicism in that statement. Ms. Troconis, her first language is not English, although I can communicate with her in English. I also communicate with her in Spanish, which I speak. And if we're going to do anything more technical than just stand in front of the court and enter pleas or whatnot, I felt it was better for purposes of this case that she have the assistance of an interpreter.
Michelle's defense has further argued that the traffic video of the dump trip does not show Michelle doing anything at all. At one point, she leaned from the truck and rubbed her hand on the sidewalk, but she is never shown disposing of anything. She has an uncontested alibi covering the morning of the 24th itself. Her legal team has also stated that any DNA linking her to items involved in the alleged cover-up have been embellished. And they may also have new evidence. John Shinhorn, Michelle's attorney, has stated that DNA from a sweatshirt thought to be linked to the suspicious cyclist apparently did not match Fotis Dulos, a fact that throws a wrench into the state's theory of the crime. The lawyer has not stated how he acquired the sweatshirt. However, it was found to carry a hair of the fourth and largely forgotten person of interest, Powell Gummany. The assertion by Michelle's defense is that Powell, not Fotis, was the cyclist in the photo, and indeed, it was his truck captured near Jennifer's Suburban.
Also raises the issue, I have filed now 2 motions to dismiss. There are several motions to suppress. Let me be clear, if it's not clear, I've alleged in those motions that the warrants themselves contain outright falsehoods, reckless disregards of the truth, and important and material omissions.
Actual accuracy of that will have to await a determination by one of my colleagues, but it's not that you are bereft of information, is it?
Well, I'm bereft of evidence that would be admissible in court. I submit that what Kimball wrote in those warrants is mostly theory, speculation. It might be evidence admissible against Mr. Dulos if he was still a defendant in a case.
Motions to dismiss the charges against Michelle have been unsuccessful. Most recently, her team has filed a motion to have the investigators from the case disqualified. The state has responded by attempting to have her attorney removed from the case. Kent Mawhinney was the only one of the 3 co-conspirators that initially failed to post bond.
Has substantial ties to the state. And then we had the fact of his law practice. He's a sole practitioner. He's been doing immigration law for the past 20 years.
In either March or April of 2019, just prior to the alleged murder, Kent had contacted an old friend of his from the Windsor Rod and Gun Club in East Granby. Kent had found the land and then assisted the club to obtain it roughly 12 years earlier. He had let his membership to the club expire, but had inquired how he might get back onto the large wooded property. He was told where he could find a hidden key. In May 2019, roughly a week prior to Jennifer's disappearance, members of the Rod and Gun Club came upon a hole dug into the ground measuring approximately 2 feet wide, 6 feet long, and 3 feet deep. The members described the hole as 100% a human grave. Inside were bags of lime, a mineral thought to cover the scent of decomposition. They did not report the hole to police until much later, after Jennifer's disappearance, and upon hearing of Kent Mawhinney's renewed interest in visiting the land and his connection to the case. Until that point, they said the hole was disturbing, but no one was actually missing. Adding a layer of circumstantial evidence was a review of Kent's cell phone records. These showed his phone accessing the tower in East Granby near to the Rod and Gun Club on a handful of instances from March to May 2019, including once at just past 11 p.m. on the 31st of May, just days after Jennifer was reported missing. When law enforcement searched the club, they found the hole filled in. They dug into the ground and canines searched the scene, but no human remains were located. The chief state attorney has stated that the grave never contained Jennifer Farber Dulos. However, prosecutors do believe that Kent Mawhinney dug that hole, presumably for a reason. The search for Jennifer is not over. The property in Farmington has been sold, leading police to return for yet another thorough search before it changed hands. Drones flew overhead, holes were dug in various areas, and a bone finder was called in to search the basement. They did not report anything of evidentiary value following that search.
Our main goal is to, again, work towards providing the family of Jennifer Dulos some closure, and our detectives will continue to work tirelessly in the direction of doing so.
Kent Mawhinney was eventually released on about a $250,000 bail. Then he was sent back after tampering with his ankle monitor. He allegedly severed the strap, but the 2 wires that track location were still intact. Kent remained in custody until December 2022, when his bond was reduced back down. Kent, like Michelle, has pleaded not guilty to the conspiracy charges. However, he is expected to testify against Michelle Troconis in her pending trial. Reports state that Kent is expected to testify that he overheard Michelle and Fotis planning the murder, and then again in a subsequent conversation, he overheard the words, "We did it." The 5 Dulos children have been in the custody of Jennifer's mother Gloria in Manhattan since the day she disappeared. Writing back in 2012, when her youngest was still a baby, Jennifer wrote in her blog about the trials of motherhood and the impact on her sleep. She wrote that she and her daughter always slept better when Fotis was out of town. She closed the anecdote by addressing her child. "I know that this too shall pass, but I fear I may be in a body bag by then. Love, your mom. And that was the tragic case so far of the disappearance of Jennifer Farber Dulos.